Good evening. It's wonderful to be here, especially to be doing this with Katy, whose book I adored, and I hope you'll have a lot of interesting questions for us at the end. The book is Stella Bain. I'm reading from the very beginning, so I don't need to catch you up on anything. Sunrise glow through canvas panels, foul smell of gas gangrene, men moaning all around her, pandemonium and chaos. She floats inside a cloud, cottony, a little dingy. Pinpricks of light summon her to wakefulness. She drifts, and then she sleeps. Distinct sounds of metal on metal, used instruments tossed into a pan. She tries to remember why she lies on a cot enclosed within panels of canvas, a place where men who die are prepared for burial away from the rest of the wounded, a task she has performed any number of times. She glances down and finds that she is wearing men's mauve pajamas. Why do her feet hurt? A small piece of cloth with a question mark on it is pinned to a uniform hanging from a hook. For several minutes, she studies the uniform before realizing that she does not know her own name. She receives this fact with growing anxiety. The name Liz floats lightly into her thoughts, but she does not think Liz is her name. Elizabeth. No. Ella? Ellen? Possibly, though there ought to be a sibilant. She ponders the empty space where a name should be. The name Stella bubbles up into her consciousness. Can Stella be it? She examines the letters as they appear in her mind, and the more she studies them, the more certain she is that Stella is correct. Again she drifts into a half-sleep. When she comes to, she cannot remember the name she has decided upon. She lets her mind empty, and gradually it returns. Stella. Such a small thing. Such a big thing. Stella has no idea where she has come from. She senses it might be an unhappy place, a door she might not want to open. But no one's entire past can be unhappy, can it? It might contain unhappy events or a tendency towards melancholy, but the whole cannot be unhappy. All around her, the hum of flies and the beat of fast footsteps. Orders are shouted. A new batch of wounded is coming in. The staff will want her bed. Of course they will. There is nothing wrong with her, and she has simply been allowed to sleep a long time. She rubs her feet together, a sharp pain through the muffling of bandages. How has she injured her feet? A panel is moved aside, and she hears a woman speak in French. Seconds later, a nurse, a nun, enters the small canvas compartment. As she moves towards the bed, she looms large in her starched uniform and wimple. She scrutinizes Stella's eyes, scanning the patient nose for dilated pupils. "You are British?" the sister asks. "I am not sure," Stella answers. "You have been unconscious for 2 days," the sister explains, stepping back and fussing with the sheets as she slides Stella's feet from under the covers. "Your feet had bits of shrapnel in them when you arrived. Someone with a cart left you outside the tent in the middle of the night. I should like to examine your feet." This is someone else's story, Stella thinks, not hers. "What is your name?" "Stella." She pauses. "Where am I?" "Marne." "Marne is in France?" "Yes," the sister answers, pursing her mouth. "My name is Sister Luke. I am British, but almost everyone else at the camp is French. We believe your boots blew off when you were knocked unconscious by the first shell, and that a second shell injured your feet. You had not a scratch on you otherwise, apart from some bruises from falling." "Will I be able to walk?" Stella asks. Sister Luke studies her. "I think you are American." "Am I?" "From your accent, but you were found in a British VAD uniform." Stella cannot explain this. "You are VAD?" "I don't know." Stella can see that the sister is annoyed and has other more pressing matters to attend to. "But I know how to drive an ambulance," she blurts out. Is this true? If not, why does she think it is? You know this, and yet you do not know you're posting, the sister asked with barely concealed disbelief. Yes, the paradox is bewildering, but does not seem urgent. Beyond the canvas, Stella knows, everything is urgent. The sister moves toward the opening in the compartment. Apart from your feet, I can find nothing wrong with you. You will have them examined and dressed on a regular basis. Then you will rest and eat and drink while we ascertain your identification. We will contact all the nearby hospital camps. You cannot have come very far. When your feet are better, you can work. Perhaps we will see if you can drive that ambulance after all. In the meantime, you are to remain here. What is your last name? Stella simply shakes her head. Orders are given and a nurse's aide arrives with a tray. The dressing of Stella's wounds is more painful than she would have thought possible. The aide, who looks exhausted, helps Stella drink 2 glasses of water. Stella feels sorry for the young woman and does not ask questions because she knows the effort it will take to answer them. Stella's last name comes to her the way a bird takes flight. She tells the aide, I am Stella Bain. When the aide leaves, Stella closes her eyes and then opens them. She repeats this exercise several times, but no matter how often she does it, she cannot remember what regiment she was attached to or what she was doing on a battlefield. A month later, Stella has recovered from her wounds and serves as a nurse's aide in a French uniform. Again, she puzzles over the way her skills have returned to her, even though she does not know where she learned them. Stella is appalled by her surroundings. The soil thick with manure, mud-laced wounds causing suppurating infections, compound fractures imposing a death sentence. A swab of Lysol along with gauze dipped in iodine is all the medicine on offer. A gas gangrenous wound, not to be confused with the effect of poison gas, balloons up to grotesque proportions. Stella watches a doctor play an idle beat upon a man's flesh with his fingers. The sight is awful, the sound hollow. Almost all the men die. Sometimes the doctor's screams are louder than the patient's. The surgeon's job is beyond belief, a hell on earth worse than any hell imagined. Stella wants to know how many of them go mad, all sensibility and religion violently stripped away during the endless successions of amputations. Always look a man in the eye, no matter how terrible the wound. This the English sister teaches, orders her to do. The wounded's journey is long, from the trenches of no man's land to the aid post, to the field dressing station, to the casualty clearing station, only to die in the train on the way to the base hospital. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. It is such an honor to be reading with Anita tonight. It's a rare privilege. So thank you for being here and for sharing this event with me. So the story of Land and Sea is set in the late 18th century in coastal North Carolina at the tail end of the American Revolution. And the first part of the book focuses on a man named John, who is a widower and an ex-pirate who finds himself raising a 10-year-old girl named Tabitha, his daughter, by himself. His wife has died in childbirth, his wife Helen, and he is trying to figure out how to be a parent on his own, which at this particular point in history is pretty difficult. So Tabitha is naturally growing up a little bit wild and unruly. And in the scene that I want to read for you tonight, Tabitha has come down with some symptoms of yellow fever. And John does not know the best thing for her. So he consults a local doctor, and he even consults an enslaved woman in the slave quarters, and they offer different advice. But what he remembers is a ship journey that he took with his wife when they eloped to become married. And that journey was a thing of renewal and a thing of beauty. And so he assumes that if he takes his sick daughter to the same ocean, that somehow this will cure her. So they have been at sea for a couple of days now, and Tabitha, the daughter, is indeed seeming to become a little bit better, and this raises John's hopes. So that's the part that I'll read for you tonight. Tabitha wakes in the afternoon feeling stronger yet. On deck, she searches out the cook and finds him sleeping behind an iron cauldron where a stew is simmering. The smell is rich and just short of rancid. She takes her bowl and biscuit into the sun again and finds a space between two barrels to fold herself, safely distant from the lines. 24 men seem to be playing a game with coils of rope, vast sheets of linen, and the open ocean. The sloop is making progress, but Tab cannot tell in what direction they're moving or whether circles are being transcribed in place of a forward route. When she looks at the sun, it's always a step to one side of noon. Even with the wind, the air is warmer here than on the Beaufort shore. She tucks a bent nail into her dress pocket. Once in Bermuda, she'll find not only shells and crab husks, but also the beached carcasses of sea monsters with tusks of ivory. She will help her father build a house there, and everything she does will be an echo of her mother, so John will be content again. This is the life he was meant for, the life Tab had kept him from. Women, with their death, with their birthings, are not fit sailors. But Tab fixes a bargain, neither to die nor to beget life, and she asks the God of her grandfather to witness. In her corner between the barrels, Tab tells God that she will be good, that she will seek adventure and so redeem her mother's absence, and in that moment, with the sun on her face like a warm hand, she chooses to believe in his promise of everlasting life. John labors with new gaiety. His daughter has sprung to life, a fever victim become a child again. He knows that yellow fever always has this pause, this reprieve that leads loved ones to hope, and that afterward the patients are either well or dead. But seeing her body in motion, her legs fumbling across the swaying deck, he swallows hope and lets it burn inside him. He pulled his daughter from the godly quicksand of Beaufort, and now in the clear and open air, he has saved her. He has done for the child what he could not do for the mother. A peace settles on him as he packs the powder kegs and carries them below to the gun deck. This ship is a haven, and even amongst 24 of the roughest men, he has no fear for his daughter. She is less a woman than a thin angel, the specter of her departed mother. Years ago, he and Helen and a smallest version of Tab were on just such a ship. His wife's belly was growing into a little drum. He asked what sort of mother she would be, and she asked what sort of father, and they laughed, having no guides. The ship was heading north again for home, laden with stolen goods, but that day, in the blue and gold of summer, they were docked at Antigua. The sailors were in town, some spending coins on women, others spending them on trinkets for the women they left behind. Carved coconuts, painted bowls, bones. They would sail the next morning, the captain believing that one could outrun the diseases that thrived in the Indies. In the cabin they shared, not 6 feet wide and with one hammock hung above the other, the afternoon glowed on the walls. Helen had pulled him here when the men filed off the ship. He asked, didn't she want to see Antigua, and she had kissed him, and he said, no, he didn't either. Come see, she said, her hand tight around his arm. They both were children once, and here she was, with child.